Grinding gear games has pissed a lot of people off at the moment recently, and it's kind of understandable in some ways, but also there are other sides of the coin that you should probably be looking at. Now, over the past week since the game launched, and yes, it's almost been a week, there's been several big updates to character builds and skills, and a few things happened. Starting on December 6th with Supercharged Slam, unfortunately dealing far too much damage, getting nerfed, to the Magnetic Salvo being nerfed straight after the next day, and then a day after that, gas cloud explosions, probably due to Just Drive Hayes dropping a video on the Dart Fart build, or the Fart Dart, I can't remember what way it was one of the two. But then that one was nerfed the day after that on December 9th. And then on December 10th, Raging Spirits was nerfed. I made a video on that one because that personally affected me, but it wasn't really a nerf, it just stopped you from auto doing it. And then the day after that, a big old patch notes dropped, doing some really good changes with passive block chances now being able to hit from all directions, player size is set to 0, so the dodge rolling you can get out of things a lot easier, smaller monsters will be pushed out of the way when dodge rolling, the ultimatums and the gym, but they'll now display whether they can give you ascendancy skill points or not, along with a lot of other really good changes. And then they added the trigger gems and energy gain, stopping the trigger gems from being able to go off as easy as they were before, which means it did a massive hit to the new COC build that was dropped, where everyone was dropping comets on the world, and Reddit was readily pissed off about it. If we look at every one of the top posts right now, your build feels a bit too strong and you start saving up for insurance. My wife and kids left me because of the COF nerfs. That's actually quite a funny story on there. It's talking about how his wife found out his first build was nerfed on the first day, and then she was like, oh, no. It's actually a really funny story. You should go and check that out. People dropping memes about your build won't be nerfed if it was like shitty from the start. How to know if your build is going to get nerfed. Do you delete bosses with one mouse button? Yes, nerf, of course. Like that. This is one of the points that I was actually going to start talking about. How can anyone really think it's okay to run around the map and one-shot the entire thing and sit there and one-shot a boss in a game that people are complaining about the difficulty of? Like on the first day, there was a lot of complaints about how difficult the bosses are, how they're overtuned, how Act 1 shouldn't be so difficult, and we need more loot and we need more currency, and the game is too hard and it's too challenging. And then you get some genius level IQ dude on YouTube dropping a video about how this comet can come down and wipe out the face of the earth, or someone like me doing a video on Raging Spirits and how Raging Spirits can run around and just blow up packs of enemies and kill bosses in a pretty significantly quick amount of time. Although with the Raging Spirits build on the Witch, it's not overpowered to the point it's just going to wipe out the map. You still have to play the game to actually use it, which is why I was enjoying it in the first place, and I do have a guide for that down in the description and in the pinned comment for you guys to check out if you want to check it out. Also a link to the written guide if you want to check that out as well. Little plug in there, and it's probably what you're seeing in the background as a bit of background video. This picture kind of shows exactly what it is. So with the COC build, do you delete bosses one mouse button? Yes. No, for sure. And then if you go in and look at the SRS, do you delete bosses with one mouse button? No. Do you delete mob packs with one mouse button? Yeah, you do, but you have to press it twice, so I guess that counts. No, probably okay. Yes, maybe a nerf. And that's just the way it's going to go. If you're going to have a build that's making the game completely and utterly trivial, making it kind of like what it looks like in Diablo 4 at the end game, it's going to get a nerf, especially from GGG, because GGG don't like that kind of gameplay, at least as far as I remember. But I also understand that if they do nuke a build, if they do brick a build, and as someone that hasn't got enough coin to go and do the respecs, there should be a token that gets put in. And I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say that everyone should get like just a specific class should get tokens and stuff like that, because that would be too much work for the devs. Just if they nuke a build, just give everyone a free respec token. You can stack those free respec tokens up for every time there's a big massive change that kills an actual build completely, at least then to make it a little bit easier to jump back in the game and try something else out, or at least have us like a maximum on the amount of coin it costs to do a respec. 200 500 coins per point would be okay, because I'm nearly up to 7,000 a node, and that's not even including the 20,000 for the ascendancy points. Like it's actually a ridiculous amount. And even though I'm in the end game doing the mapping stuff and I've got several 100,000 coins, that will go in about 10 to 20 nodes of respecking. This guy here actually posted a thing, a scroll of amnesia, unique scroll, refunds all your allocated skill points. I believe that's from one of the previous games, so you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. But something like that would actually be quite interesting to have on the time that there's a big brick build, that this should be given out to all players. Don't give it out to just individual players, just give it to all players, because if you turn around and say, yes, you broke the COC build, but there were actually people running around as warriors doing COC, so it's not like it was just sorcerers that were getting bricked. It wasn't just witches that were getting bricked. There was warriors. I even saw someone doing it on a monk running around with a staff, just casting comets everywhere. So it's not just the classes, so just give it out to everyone, and only when there's a specific explosion, or at least drop the coins down a significant amount. I think that would be much better for all of us, and I can test other builds on my class rather than having to have 3 different witches, one for chaos, one for minions, and then one for a kind of fire build that I've got going on, which I don't mind putting the work into. I do it all the time, but it would help out with the testing phase for make it a little bit easier to do it. I understand why they haven't done it, because they need to figure out if the cost of a respec in the final game, they kind of have to figure that out as well. You know, it's not just seeing what works and what doesn't work. There's some other funny things on here about can't be upset about a brick cast on X build if you didn't know what a cast on X was before opening Reddit this morning, which is actually true, because a lot of people were just copying builds that were put out there by some of the content creators and some of the people on Reddit posting up their builds and stuff, and it was just an easy way to get through some of the harder content. Now, I'm not saying you don't have the right to be angry about this, because I do think you have the right to be. If I logged in and all the time I've spent building this build that I've built for the Raging Spirits, I'd be absolutely fucking raging. I would be raging. So everyone has the right to be completely pissed off with this at the moment. And I think GGG really needs to look at it and really needs to sit back and think, you know what, if we're going to keep retention for testing, then there has to be something put in place to allow for more testing. Now, it's not like the game is losing a significant amount of players because of this. It is actually we're keeping and maintaining a pretty decently high number even a week after launch. Normally we'll see this going down a significant amount, but we're not. It's gone down a lot less than the usual amount. It's keeping quite a good retention. Now, we'll have to see on Sunday, because Sunday is usually the biggest day for games where people can just sit down and have some gaming time where they're not working and stuff on Sundays. So usually, as we had on this Sunday, we had an all-time high 578,000, and we could see that again in the next couple of days with some high numbers at the weekend. We'll have to have a look and see what is actually going to happen there. Now, it's only going to be for the first couple of weeks that you're really going to have to drop the respec down, because that's when most of the big builds that are going to be broken and going to like ruin their vision of what the game should be are going to come out in that time. So in the first month, then they can put the refund, the respecs cost all the way back up to how it was before. But at least I think for the first month, we need to have either free respecs or really cheap respecs to be able to jump out of it if a build does get bricked. Now, I was going to talk about some of the currency issues that are having, because there could be a lot of currency that's being used on items for builds specifically, and trading to get certain unique items using exile orbs and regal orbs and that sort of stuff when you're actually trading those items out there. So a lot of the items are being used, but they actually fixed that a lot. I've got quite a decent amount of orbs now. Like, I've got quite a lot of orbs. They're dropping like hotcakes all over the place now. So I think they have actually fully fixed that. I mean, even in my Act 1 to 3 I'm doing right now on a Lightning Sorcerer, I'm getting quite a significant amount of orbs. I'm getting a pretty decent amount of gold too. And actually running through this time and breaking down the sockets and stuff is actually helping out a lot. But what I want to know is, what do you guys think she needs to be done? Do you think they need to be completely free? Do you think they need to have a little bit of money to them? Do you think it should be like lowered to 200 to 500 per point and it's not going to grow as you level? What do you reckon? Should there be a time limit on it? Let me know down below. I want to thank you all for watching. Fly safe and avoid local chess scams.